This guy's called the Standing Streamer.
Real stand-up commentary.
Check. Whoa, that was loud. We'll never do that again. Making sure my kids have
Hey, Brian Zane from Wrestling with Regret, and you're watching Putting You Over.
How's it going, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to Putting You Over. I am the Standing Streamer. Happy Saturday, everybody. Amazing fathers, and I'm going to have Tyson Dux on tonight. Historic, very, what's the word they always use? Very, I want to say historical, very long career, 20 plus years. He's been in WWE, Impact, Ring of Honor, all over the place. And we'll talk about him. What's up, Blowout Man? Welcome. We'll talk to him about some of the stuff he's up to, some of the stuff he's doing. I think there's some interesting points in there, so I'll have a lot of fun with that. You would like to plug? Oh, here he comes. Excellent. I see him right there. Can you hear me, Mr. Dukes? Oh, he's loading in his audio. I always forget about Zoom that you got to load in that audio first. Can you hear me, Mr. Dukes?
The audio thing is the worst. Is it not the worst?
Awesome. Awesome. You're right. Yeah, I mean, you're right on time. I'll try not to talk loud, especially if you have the volume up on your end. Sometimes I'm very boisterous. I'm a father of 3 daughters, so I have to be loud to have my voice heard in this house. So, how are you doing today?
Good, man. I'm doing very, very well.
Awesome. First thing, I want to say a couple things first. Right off the bat, thank you for taking your time and coming on the show. You don't know me from a hole in the ground, and you were willing to do it, so I greatly appreciate that. That's 1. 2, happy belated birthday. I know it was June 19th, so awesome job out of you. Juneteenth. It was yesterday, right?
Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Juneteenth, brother.
That's right. So happy birthday to that, and happy early Father's Day. So
Hey, yeah, because you're right. I just every one of them out of the way. Yeah.
get them all out of the way. My anniversary is tomorrow too, so I'm killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So.
Oh, you're smart, man. Look at you. Smart.
Yeah, it's very, very smart. And I was doing some research on you and trying to arrange my flow, which I pretend to be professional and whatnot. And I'm like, man, he has such a long career. Like, I don't want to go boom, boom, boom. Like, he did this, this, and this, because that would just be boring for him and boring for me. So I'm going to do my best to make it flow, make it a conversation, and have some fun. But there are a few things I like to ask because I just like the responses. And one of those questions is your first wrestling memory, like growing up as a kid. Was it big in your household? What was that first wrestling memory?
Not in my house. I didn't have TV until I was 12. I come from a farm setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was born in 78.
Yeah.
So this is a while back. So where we came from, we didn't have cable. We had a TV that had 2 stations, and one of them was fuzzy, right? So wrestling wasn't prominent back then. Well, it was. It was in the 80s when I was a kid. but I didn't know about it until my mom brought home a coloring book. And that's the first time I ever really got a real good grasp of what professional wrestling was the Rockin' Wrestling coloring book with Hulk Hogan and Hillbilly Jim and
Wow.
Iron Sheik and
Yeah.
Roddy Piper, man. And then after that, I've been hooked ever since, that little coloring book.
Little Saturday morning cartoon coloring book, huh?
I'm telling you, that's all it was. Mom went for groceries, came home with this, like, I keep saying it's like 40, 50 cents, something
Yeah.
stupid, right?
It was
Something
probably
cheap.
like right by the register, hook them on the
Yeah,
way out as
yeah.
they're paying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's how I grew up. I didn't have very much. And so when Mom would bring me home something like that, that was the one thing that resonated with me. So I was in there, like, I'm a kid, like I said, of the 80s, so He-Man and
Yeah.
Transformers, G.I. Joe, but there was nothing like Hulk Hogan and that band of Misfits.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the best.
And it was big. You're 78, you said it. I'm 79. So we're
Yeah.
right in that same genre, that rock and roll, that Saturday morning cartoon, Hulk Hogan, bigger than life, going up
Yep.
against people like the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, Piper,
Yep.
big on MTV. All it's blowing up then. Like that's right WrestleMania 1 time. I mean, that's the golden
definitely,
era,
definitely was. Yeah, it is.
And man, I can remember those times like they were yesterday, to tell you the truth. And
They're the best. They're
yeah.
the best times ever. It's the best time to be a kid.
They sure are. Some of the best. It's really fun to go back sometimes and watch some of those on the network. Just like, because you reminisce and you have the real good guys against it's good versus evil, and that's what made it good. Just keep it simple, stupid. Boom. But as far as you growing up, getting into wrestling, you got that coloring book, loving it. What's the aha moment, the ooh ding on your head when you think to yourself, this might be something I would like to do? What?
Yeah, you know what? It was always with me. I always was a kid that would wrestle in the entrance part of the church because we're religious growing up, right? So we would always wrestle as kids, and then it was funny because we were just play wrestling, and then it just kind of, it's not like we didn't take it as seriously as backyard wrestling.
Yeah.
We were just kids like messing around in the front lawn of a church, and then we started to grow a little bit of an audience with it. Just everybody just laughing, thinking it was funny, and it just seemed to culminate with things of like Benoit was always my guy, Chris Benoit growing up, and then he wasn't that tall. We had Grand Prix wrestling out on the East Coast, and it was the best stuff ever because like it was real bad guys, real good guys, just big nasty guys. But they had a bunch of guys that weren't so big.
Yeah.
I remember like some of those fellas weren't bigger than my dad, and I always thought these guys were huge. And then my old man was only about 5'7". I'm like, that's like, I'm a little kid, but I'm like, you know what? My dad could probably beat that guy up.
Yeah.
So it just started to resonate with me all the time, and I never really lost the idea of becoming a pro wrestler. And then just when I turned 18, I just decided, hey, let's go do it. Why not? Life's too short,
All right.
and I don't want to be what everybody else wants me to be. And I just went and did it.
So you're 18. What's your first step? I mean, you're up in Canada, so I would assume you're up in Canada at 18 at the time, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to me, Canadian wrestling, it almost goes hand in hand. So you're 18. Are there a ton of places like wrestling schools or places to go at that time?
No, there's not. My dad, when I graduated from high school, took me to, as a surprise, he took me to 2 events. My dad hated professional wrestling.
What a good
He did
guy.
not like pro wrestling. Yeah, he hated pro. He was the greatest dude ever.
Yeah.
He was the best human being, but he hated pro wrestling. He just didn't understand it. But when I turned 17, when I graduated from high school, he first took me to Grand Prix Wrestling.
Yeah.
So I got to go to Grand Prix Wrestling, which is an East Coast small promotion. And it had Scott D'Amore was on there as an assassin, and so was Christian Cage and Sexton Hardcastle, who is Edge.
Yep.
And they were on these Grand Prix shows. And so he took me to that. I had the best time, just this old school feel at my like local arena. And then he also had plans. So that was the first. And the second thing he took me to, we went to Pennsylvania. My dad drove transport truck. So he just said, hey, let's go for a drive. And we went to Pennsylvania and caught a WCW show because he knew that I liked Benoit.
Yeah.
And so he found this. I don't know how the old man found it, but I went and watched Benoit versus Regal live at a house show.
Oh my goodness gracious.
WCW. Dude, like if you I watched it on TV,
Yeah.
so I know I've seen Benoit Regal before, but there was nothing on earth than seeing it live and seeing them just having the time to work a house show. It was, yeah, I was set in stone right then. And then my dad took me to Killer Kowalski's place as well on the way home.
Wow.
So we came up through Massachusetts, and he took me over to Kowalski's. And I met Kowalski, and then my dad on the way home said, Ty, I can't leave you in those kind of conditions and in another country. Like,
Yeah.
like if you want to do this, we gotta figure something else, son. So the internet was a brand new thing.
Yeah.
So I decided I looked for the dungeon in Alberta, right?
Yep.
The Hart Brothers.
Yep.
Go to the Hart Brothers. But then on my way to going to Stampede that way, I saw that there was even better. It was Midpoint. So Ontario had the Hart Brothers School of Wrestling, run by the oldest Hart, which is Smith Hart.
Yep.
And so I went there because they had a place for me to stay. Like they had actual lodging at the place.
Wow.
And so I just trained and lived there, and that's what I did. That's all I did.
Who trained you?
I give a lot of credit to a lot of different people.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
guy up here that he makes wrestling boots right now. His name's Ron Davies, RD Boots. Ron Davies is an old jobber guy from back in Maple Leaf Wrestling days, and he gave me he's the guy that kind of broke my, got my teeth,
Yeah.
you know,
Let you through the door.
cut my teeth on him. Yeah, he learned, like, that's where I learned technical wrestling, and he was great. He's quiet and mean, a little bit mean and rigid and weird, and I just loved him. And then from there it was Joe Legend, Just Joe from WWE back in the day.
Yeah.
And Scott D'Amore, and then eventually got groomed up after having a long feud with Terry Taylor.
Oh.
And those guys I give the most credit to in my career for my learning.
Yeah. That's from all the way up to the Red Rooster and Scott D'Amore. That's great. But it's interesting that your dad, like you said, your dad couldn't care less about wrestling, and he took you on that
Yeah.
trip, and it's almost like, man, did he pick the perfect spots to take you? It's like he knew, or he researched.
Unreal.
It was those were perfect spots, and to me,
He's unbelievable.
correct me if I'm wrong. To me, even though he didn't care for it, he at least was behind you 110%.
That's one thing I always say. Like, that's why I say he's the greatest human being that ever lived.
Yeah.
Because my dad hated I always tell people this too when people ask me. It's like, my dad hated pro wrestling, but my dad loved me more.
Yeah.
So he just, if I was going to be bullheaded about it, and if I wasn't going to do anything else, he was going to make sure that I did it and that I did it right. So yeah, dad was awesome. He's a good man.
That's great. And I believe that's great to hear a day before Father's Day. Oh, that's awesome. So much love to your dad, man. Hats off to him. Your debut, I think, if my research is correct, was 1997. I can't remember 1997, so I don't know if you can, but what is that feeling like? What was that experience like?
Oh man, it was a small little, it's like any other independent. I'm at a high school in the middle of nowhere, Ontario. It's a little place called Aurelia. The biggest thing there is they have a little casino. And that was it. I was just in front of maybe 100 people. And it was the start of a tour, and it was me and my roommate at the school.
Yeah.
His name was Campbell Thompson. He was the Dingo, he's known by. He's like an Australian kid that came over to Canada to train, and now he lives in Japan. Just the greatest dude ever. And we just feuded with, that was it. They put us against each other night in, night out kind of deal for a little bit, and then we had to tag together and get beat up a lot by vet guys. But
Yeah.
that was my first. It was against him. And it was so bad. I wish I had it on tape
That's what
because I would show people.
Yeah.
I'm not a natural.
It's one of I'm sure you get that question a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people that I talk to get it, but it's just fun to hear everyone's response. It's pretty much the same. It was terrible. I don't ever want to see it. But you were interesting. You just said, I wish I had it on tape so I could teach others. Like, look, I wasn't a natural. I learned this. Like, it didn't come perfect to me, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a great response.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. You know, you make it in. You're in the WWE a bunch of different times. You know, trusty Wikipedia told me from 02 to 05 and then 07 and 14. To be honest with you, I didn't know anything about you. A viewer, a fan, a close friend of the show named Vanessa. She's from Canada as well. She said, I got to have you on. You're a great person. You've wrestled 20 plus years. We're going to get to your other stuff, your wrestling school. So I start researching you. I'm like, oh, I'll do it. I trust Vanessa. You were in the Cruiserweight Classic, I found out, which was, I had no idea. So I had to go back, watch it. And yeah, you were there. So then I started doing some more stuff. And I stumbled upon I think it was an interview with Colt Cabana. You were talking about the Cruiserweight Classic, that the WWE wouldn't allow you to do certain moves or something? Do I have that wrong?
Oh no, that's well, it's like I defended the point, and then Colt kind of called me on and said, "You were dumb, you're stupid for like saying it," because I got whatever the Up Rocks station was. Yeah, they took my quotes and they misrepresented what I said, so it made it sound super bad. Like I felt bad about, or I was like bitter about it, but I wasn't. All I was trying to do was educate people that maybe in the first round we don't do everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't show your cards. Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, right. Because I knew that I had done enough, and I did enough, and my stuff was solid enough that they asked me to come back anyway.
Yeah.
So it would be overkill. And even looking back on it, it was overkill for, I do a stalling suplex off the second rope.
Yep.
So I'll be on the second rope and I'll pick a guy up and hold him there forever and then fall and ring in like a superplex, right?
Yep.
Superplex spot. But they said, maybe, and it wasn't even like it was a hard no. It was like, can you figure out something else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A little something else out. And it was just agents. It's just what agents do. They tell you they try to make your match as good as possible.
Yeah.
And like it was unnecessary to have it. So that's all it was. Because like, you know what I mean? It was me and Zach are like chain wrestling guys.
Yep.
He's a super, super wrestling guy. I'm like all about fundamentals and grappling itself. So they kind of wanted us to stay within that realm.
And
that's it. That was it. Like, and then of course I get blown out of proportion. Like I was like, wouldn't let me do my stuff.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to get over? Don't let me do my stuff. But it wasn't like that at all.
That's how you're saying it is how so I hear the thing on Colts and I'm like, wait a minute, everything I've been reading about Tyson, that doesn't sound like his language. So I go back and find the Up Rocks thing and I read it and learn about that. And then I go back to the Colt interview and I'm like, it's just taken out of context, and it makes and what you just said to me makes sense because it didn't fit with the character the person that you come off as when I was researching you. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No, it was man. It was really, really silly, and thanks Up Rocks, you jerk. Like I never got so many guys from WWE messaging me like, Tyson, what are you doing? What are you saying? But already my tenure with them was basically over because I got caught at the border. I got detained at the border and flagged and turned around, so I couldn't do it anymore. Anyways.
Yeah, I
So
read
was
that as well. Hold on one second. Night, honey.
it.
It's my 3-year-old saying good night. Oh, all right. Good night. Um, so flagged and detained at the border. So you can't cross the border to wrestle. What's that? That's
No,
confusing to me.
no, I wasn't. Yeah, no, I'm not banned. I was flagged for a year, which meant they were watching my every move if I crossed the border,
And that's a
and they didn't
U.S.
let
thing,
me
right? That's
cross.
on us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Canadian U.S. thing. I went to because I did the first taping, did really well with Zach. They really enjoyed my stuff. The only two people they pulled aside and said, "Hey, just awesome," was me and Jack Gallagher. They
Yeah.
like I watched him Triple H shake everybody's hands, and he actually pulled me and because I watch and I
Yep.
study people. It was me and Gallagher, and he pulled us aside and said, "Hey, man, that was like your stuff was like really good, and we're like that was very impressive." So I knew I was coming back, and because I'm a Canadian kid, I just left my cell phone off until I got home, and when I got home and turned it back on and got Wi-Fi, right away there was a message saying, "Ty, you need to call the office because we want you back for the next set of tapings."
Right.
So I was supposed to go back down for the next set of tapings. Unfortunately, that never happened because I got detained at the airport because I'd grown in popularity, and I didn't have the right paperwork. There wasn't any paperwork given. We were just meant to cross
Yeah.
and take our chances. Anyways, I crossed, and I didn't get a chance to get to do it.
Ugh.
I was supposed to work with Kenta. I was supposed to work with him at NXT, and they wanted a strong style match. And then I was supposed to do coaching all week, and then I was supposed to do my Cruiserweight Classic thing. So it was going to be a great week, very busy week, but it all got shut down by one lady saying, "No thanks, you
Oh
stay
my
home."
God. We
Yeah,
had
it's nuts.
we had Tyler Turva, another Canadian wrestler. We had him on Thursday, and he
Yep.
explained to me, because I don't have any clue about this, that independent wrestlers can't get a work visa to go to the States and try to get themselves booked. They need, I forgot how he
Right.
phrased it, they need like a company to sponsor them, and then they can come in. And I was like, man, I had no clue that stuff. And that's all on
Is
US's
that
end. Yeah.
see? And then Turva is not because like he doesn't know as much as I do
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the amount of the studying I had to do.
Yeah.
So it's not even that. Like it's not even a sponsorship. You have to, as a company, if you're going to get a person a visa, say like a P1 visa. I
Yeah.
know this is going to be boring,
That's all right.
but like a P1 visa to get the first one. Nowadays, you have to have all your events and all the planned visits that you're going to make. They need to know that for a year in advance
Wow.
so that they can just put them all in the system. So it is incredibly hard to get, because I had a P1 visa when I worked for TNA,
Yeah.
and I was under a contract for 2 years. But then rules changed, and so I couldn't cross. I couldn't cross even if like if Impact, say a company like Impact, it's a small
Yep.
company, wanted to use me. They don't know what they're doing in 12 months. They have
No.
no idea what the schedule or where they're going to be, what the venue's going to be. So they couldn't even get me a visa right now. So it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
pain in the butt is what it is.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Wow, it's a whole nother aspect of wrestling I never even considered.
Yeah, it's
Ever.
insane.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to go to kind of what you're doing now. You talked about it coaching. You have your own wrestling school. And I think I have a link for it. I want to get it right. Is it Duke's Factory?
Yeah,
Tw-
that's me.
Twitter.com Duke's Factory. Why don't you inform the people in the Twitch chat that might be live here now, or anyone else on YouTube as we push it out, exactly everything that goes into your wrestling school?
See, I'm an old school guy,
Yeah.
so I tend to follow the old school ways. I'm not a guy that believes in abuse because I was abused where I went. I don't believe in any of that stuff, but I do believe that hard work pays off. So I teach them everything. I teach from social media stuff, which I hate, but I
Yeah.
have to teach it now to be respectful on here because of this uprocks thing, you know.
Yep.
I teach all the chain wrestling, all bumps, all kinds of stuff. Like everything you have that takes you to become a professional wrestler, I do it from promos and stuff like that. It's a year course. I make sure that it's a year because I don't feel as though, and you know what, people can disagree with me all they want. If I'd rather have a year course under my belt than 6 months or 3 months. I'd rather have the full year where you're training all the time and make sure that you have it down. Because I don't want people out there that just don't know how to do a tackle or a drop down. I want them to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I condition people for a full year. Everybody comes in. If they're out of shape, they get in shape. That's the way it is. You just do a ton of push-ups and squats and stuff like you would back in the day. And I teach them the old school way. So it's very much slow down, grab hold, that kind of stuff, aggressive. All the stuff that I love about wrestling back in the 80s and stuff like that is what I teach.
Yeah. I was just talking recently, I don't know, might have been on here, might have been with my brother. The art of selling is actually a lost art these days. And
Gone.
you don't see it. I'm not a wrestler. I've never been in the ring. I've never trained. I don't know anything about it, but I'm a fan and I've watched enough of it. So I feel confident enough to say the art of selling is gone and everybody's just boom, 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 boom. And, I mean, I don't know, like you run a school, you do a lot of coaching, a lot of training. What's one thing the new wrestlers of today could do more of that they don't? Is it selling? Is it something else I'm missing?
Yeah, there's the list is so long we could be here for days.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'll give you a few things. So if anybody's listening and you're in the professional wrestling game, I will give you my list. You can take it if you want. You can leave it behind if you're like getting successful. But unfortunately, we are killing our business slowly. These kids are killing our business because the old dinosaurs are gone and the social media thing has bullied the old generation out. And we used to bully out people that shouldn't have been here in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I survived. I'm only 5'8".
Yep.
I starved to death at wrestling school. I went down from 185-pound thick farm kid to 140 pounds starving to death, but I still made it. You know what I mean? I'm not, and you don't hear me complain about it. Those scars I hold dearly to me because that's what made me and that's what built my character. And so, like, with wrestling nowadays, the old guys are all gone because they don't even give a shit about it now.
Yeah.
But, like, nobody sells.
No.
There's no selling. There's nobody's really aggressive. There's nothing like everybody just, it looks phony. It looks very cartoony. Nobody, like, one of the things I cannot stand is when they throw a guy off the ropes. See, people jog into the into the ropes. And like my time, like you explode into the ropes like someone legitimately threw you into them. You take that, no facials anymore. No, like I said, like nobody sells accordingly. No one's aggressive. Another one is nobody pins like they mean it. Nobody ever grabs, like when you're pinning, that's the whole premise of what we do.
You're
is
there
1,
to win,
2, 3.
Right?
1, 2, 3. That's it. And so if you don't believe it and your pin doesn't look like it's anything that anybody else can believe, nobody's going to believe what you're doing is an art.
Yeah.
And like the amount of false finishes, can we just have a wrestling match that ends with one kick and then that guy's out, like he's knocked out, and like because any other place in the whole entire world, MMA, wherever, you get one head kick, you're done. So there's a lot to it that is gone, and I find that wrestling now is very much homogenized. I can call it homogenized wrestling. Everything's very white milk. Everything looks the same. Everybody works the same, feeds the same, and does all the same moves. It's like there is no, there's a stifled kind of creativity. And the only thing that is creative is a lot of people. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not centering anybody out, but like if these characters, when they come up with these silly characters and wear these silly costumes, and that's their creative side. Their creative side should first be into their promos and passion and drive and intensity and all, and it should carry over into the ring, and it's all gone. See, I could talk for hours about it.
I really
could,
because we haven't even talked about how the finisher is gone these days.
Gone.
Everybody does a DDT, and I remember when I was a kid, and you're probably the same way. Jake the Snake hit you with a DDT, you're done.
Done.
You ain't getting
Done.
up.
Done.
I listen to Busted Open Radio on Sirius Satellite a lot, and Bubba Ray Dudley, him and Dave LaGreca, they were talking about believability, and the believability in some of the matches today is just not
Zero.
there. It's just not there.
Zero.
And then they went into the selling and all that. And I mean, you got your select few that can sell, can tell a story, but when you dig down deep, it's like Dustin Rhodes is selling for you. Now, come on, Dustin Rhodes has been around for a long time, and they need, I don't know, it's just.
Yep.
But like you said, social media, you know, I think Bully Ray put it best that I could relate with. When people finished their match and they went through the curtain, now this is something you can relate to, I can't. When they come through the curtain, instead of looking for someone to maybe give them constructive criticism or ask a question about their match, instead of going to that person, they go to their phone to see what Twitter has said about whatever they did.
Yeah.
And that's just,
unfortunately.
That's just
so
tough
bad.
to hear. It's just tough.
Yeah, it is. And then, you know what? Another thing that I absolutely can't stand is, and it's not on them. It's not their fault. It's just everybody's there for a good time and want to be a part of the show.